Well, Peter, you've done a lot of work around, I mean, precisely what we're talking about, I'll say, intersection of drugs, oil, money, and clandestine and overt warfare. I think there is, I mean, really nothing that brings all of those things together quite like the post 9/11 wars in such a in such an obvious way. I think a lot of your analysis has been really, really valuable along these lines, and this is part of your, I believe, conception of what the deep state is, or at least a section of the deep state. This sort of like the criminal aspect of it. And could you talk a little more about like what the deep state did to bring us into Afghanistan, and like what they gained from these sort of things?
Well, I think the situation was pretty clear in the 90s that people like Cheney, who at this point is, as I said, the chair of Halliburton, that is developing oil installations for Exxon and for Chevron, primarily in Kazakhstan. The theory then was that the most of the world's oil reserves were in Central Asia. And Brzezinski, who has a connection to COG that I won't develop at length here, but he and a man called Samuel Huntington, when they created FEMA for Carter, the Federal Emergency Management Association, Huntington joined the board of the advisors to FEMA and was there, I think, until he died in 2008. And Brzezinski, not the overt connection after he left the Carter administration, but he became an advisor for the Bush administration, even though he was a Democrat. And Brzezinski, in the same time that he was advising the George H.W. Bush administration, he wrote a book which said, in essence, that we have to control Central Asia. What he really means, I knew Brzezinski personally. He was a student at McGill at the same time I was, in a class of 4, which was discussing nationalism. And Brzezinski's agenda has always been the liberation of Poland, and it was then. It was why he was willing to boast about having supported the creation of Al Qaeda. He said, "What's more important, the liberation of Eastern Europe or a few angry Muslims?" He said this, and the year he said it was 1998, which was 3 years before we were going to find that the question of a few angry Muslims was going to be pretty important for America. But he wasn't alone. There was also something called PNAC, the Project for a New American Century. And again, I'm sounding like a scratch record for saying this, but they wrote this document in which they said, we need a forward strategy for America in Central Asia. We need a lot of changes to be better equipped to deal with the rest of the world. And then they had a sentence which was, we're not likely to get this absent, maybe you can quote it better than me, absent some major event like a new, I was going to say 9/11, no, a new Pearl Harbor.